Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Steve Bridge coming to you tonight. I watched the WWE rivalries of The Rock versus John Cena. I can honestly tell you that when I heard that this episode was going to be airing tonight, I honestly was very, very excited. I didn't know that Rivalries was a show that came out on Tuesday on the WWE Network. I honestly should go check right now and make sure that they didn't have an episode last week, because the last one that I do remember was Lita versus Trish Stratus, but I thought that was the week before last. I thought it was kind of weird that the Rivalries episodes were just sort of hit and miss. I guess I remember the Steamboat and Flair one. Maybe that was last week, so maybe I'm just a little bit mixed up on what it was. Maybe I did watch one last week and I really didn't remember. But the Rivalry show, honestly, is one of my favorite shows on the WWE Network. But as I was watching tonight, The Rock versus John Cena, I think this is a feud that doesn't go back into the past like the past episodes have gone. I really liked the episodes of, about Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair, because these were times when I really wasn't watching wrestling, or if I was watching wrestling at this time, I wasn't watching the NWA, and I don't know a lot about those feuds, so I like the history lesson. Definitely, The Rock versus John Cena is a period of wrestling when I was really involved in wrestling after, I took a break from wrestling for a little bit of 03 and 04. I came back around the time of about WrestleMania 21 in Los Angeles for the Triple H versus Batista build up. I missed all of Evolution, but even though I was watching wrestling, there was a point in my life when it just I liked watching it, but I just didn't really like what I was watching, if that makes sense. And around the time of going to WrestleMania 26, and then, really getting back into professional wrestling for the Nexus and SummerSlam of 2010, I was really in to wrestling when The Rock came back and surprised the world. So this is something that I'm not really that far removed from. I mean, these are a lot of the moments that I lived, being able to go to WrestleMania 27, seeing the match being made for WrestleMania 28, being able to attend that one. I wasn't at WrestleMania 29, but I do remember, watching it here at my house with freaking 88, Miguel over here. It was a ton of fun. But like I said, I didn't really learn a lot from this WWE Rivalries. It made me think a lot about the Once in a Lifetime DVD/Blu-ray set that came out. This probably came out in 2012. But this was an easy sort of cash grab for WWE. But it's really good. As of the last time I checked, I don't think this is on the WWE Network. You'd have to buy this on DVD or Blu-ray. But honestly, if you don't have this, this is sort of like a continuation of the Rock documentary that came out the year before. In my opinion, the only thing that really knocks the Rock documentary is that it doesn't include Rock versus Cena, which might not be the biggest match of Rock's career, but it just is a huge thing lacking, is that they show you the build-up to Rock versus Cena, but they actually don't talk about the match happening because it hasn't happened yet. But Rock versus Cena, honestly, one of the biggest feuds that's been involved in professional wrestling since I've been a wrestling fan, and since I've really had money to be able and go out to attend the biggest shows, being WrestleMania each and every year. Rock versus Cena is, a real big surprise. Of course, if you think about the build-up to WrestleMania 27, when it was announced that there was going to be a guest host, honestly, The Rock was a really big surprise. I don't even think that people were really guessing that The Rock was going to be the guy. If you go back, you'll actually find a video on my channel being the rumor of the day was that it was actually going to be Justin Bieber was going to be the guest host of WrestleMania 27. The rumors were even intensified because Justin Bieber was going to be making an appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel show. So Raw was in Anaheim. Jimmy Kimmel was filmed in Los Angeles. So it just sort of put him in the right place at the right time. And it looked like it was really going to be Bieber being there at WrestleMania, being the guest host, whether if he was going to go out there and sing a song or be the guest ring announcer or whatever the hell they were going to have him do. But one thing or another, I do remember, telling my buddy Luke to go to that Raw that night, putting it together, basically saying that if anything happens, you want to make sure you're there. And I'm sure that he thinks that's probably one of the biggest and best things that he's ever seen in professional wrestling, by going to Monday Night Raw live or anything else. He was at Rock versus Cena also, but just the surprise of being at the Rock, coming back to WWE after taking a 7-year absence. And that sort of is where the Rivalries episode kicked off, is basically Rock leaving WWE shortly after WrestleMania 20. Cena, of course, would win the United States Championship. That would probably be the last show that they both worked together, because The Rock's contract would leave before WrestleMania 21. At WrestleMania 21, Cena beats JBL to become the WWE champion. The WrestleMania was in LA. The Rock came to the Staples Center. He met with Vince McMahon, and they sort of squashed the beef that they had amongst each other for WWE letting his contract expire. The Rock decided that he was going to go off into Hollywood, and that he was going to push his dream to see how far he could go to being a movie star. And I'll honestly tell you that he made it a whole lot farther than I thought he was going to. John Cena's stock continued to rise amongst, Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock no longer being involved in WWE. From there, John Cena would be interviewed and asked about the previous past stars of WWE, and the one guy that John Cena always sort of picked on was The Rock, who basically, was not around. You can say one thing about Stone Cold Steve Austin not being around and not being on Raw a lot, but with Stone Cold Steve Austin's neck problems, he's not really able to wrestle. But The Rock is a guy who's in the prime physical, peak of his life. He always is kept in really big, good shape to be a huge action star in Hollywood. And he's a guy that, is, whenever he's asked, they showed him at the Scorpion King debut, and they asked him if he was going to continue wrestling. And he said, "I guarantee you that I will be whooping some candy ass anytime he gets a chance." And it was shortly, after the Scorpion King that led to the Rundown. And I believe is when the Rundown came out is when he just flat out left WWE completely. I don't remember him being around. The Rundown was probably the last movie that I really saw of The Rock's that they were really pushing, because The Rock was involved in WWE at the time. And from there on out, I think they just sort of acted like, The Rock was a previous star of WWE, but it wasn't like they were really hyping him up, because they knew that they couldn't deliver on the promise of him showing up anytime. But Rock comes back. Definitely he's the guest host, and the whole build-up to WrestleMania 27 is basically Rock versus Cena, a match that we never thought we were going to get, because maybe a lot of people thought The Rock would maybe get injured, and wouldn't want to take that risk, because he wouldn't want to risk a big movie or anything like that. And WWE was paying him a lot to come back to WWE, but it's not as much as it is for The Rock to go off and make movies and cash those big-time checks, because movies draw big bucks. WrestleMania 27 comes, The Rock gets involved in the match where The Miz beats John Cena. The next night on Monday Night Raw, John Cena comes out and it's basically like, no big deal. You win some, you lose some, but let's do this. Let's have a match, the biggest match of all time, WrestleMania 28, one-on-one, Rock versus Cena, and the match is accepted. From there, they talk about the fact of social media being one of the things that really built this match, because, Rock wasn't going to be around. The Rock did come back for Survivor Series, wrestling at Madison Square Garden, years after in the same place where he made his debut at Survivor Series. I'm going to guess it's like 95, but I didn't look it up, so I'm not 100% sure. So if I'm wrong, sorry. But he comes in, he wrestles a match. They didn't have the best opponents. They fought against Miz and R-Truth, two guys that they tried to build up from the month before, where they were fired from WWE, but they kept on making appearances. They snuck into Hell in the Cell, and they beat the hell out of CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio, and there was one more guy in that match, but I can't remember who it was, because it was a three-way. But and then from there, Basically, maybe Cena was in that match. I'm not sure. But, John Cena took it amongst himself to challenge The Miz and R-Truth to a tag match where, he had to go out and he had to get the one guy that he knew that he was going to be able to beat him with, and that is The Rock. And The Rock and Cena team together, even though they don't like each other, up until the last minute, they're, delivering promos on each other instead of focusing on The Miz and R-Truth. They could have been against anybody. They could have been against Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. It wouldn't have mattered because it was the matter of seeing Rock and Cena in the same ring at the same time. And I haven't watched Survivor Series since back then, but I just remember that it just wasn't what people thought it was going to be. There was no real bickering between Cena and The Rock during the match. Just once it was over, you saw the tensions boiled over, and The Rock hit John Cena with a huge rock bottom. Something that I honestly didn't even remember until I saw it on the Rivalries thing. That's one of the reasons why I've always knocked Survivor Series, is that we didn't get any physicality between Cena and The Rock. But, I guess we did. And, from there, they talk about WrestleMania 28 being one of the biggest and the best of all time. The Rock wrestling in his hometown. Of course, this is one that I didn't think that I was going to be able to go to, but as, the year came along and things came together, YouTube really helped me out. But I was able to jump on and buy a package with Ravi and Miguel. We went to WrestleMania 28. We had the best seats we'd ever had at a WrestleMania, sitting 8th row. I mean, there's only 7 rows better than that, and those packages cost a ton more now. They've more than doubled in price for what we got at WrestleMania 28, so who knows if we'll ever be able to sit down there again. But to see a match like that, good God. Michael Cole says it's one of the biggest matches that he's ever called, and he really didn't even have to say anything because of how much the match was going on in the ring, and everything was pretty much laid out for them, and it was treated like a big deal. I mean, they had, Machine Gun Kelly there, do a rap for John Cena to come out. Then you had Flo Rida put on a concert basically for The Rock to come out. And then John Cena makes the mistake of trying to show up The Rock by going for the people's elbow. The Rock is able to jump up and hit the rock bottom out of nowhere on John Cena. And John Cena's stunned at the fact that he let The Rock beat him. They jump so fast, and immediately they jump to the fact of WrestleMania 29. The Rock has the championship. John Cena wins the Royal Rumble. They have a match where Cena's able to put over Rock. Honestly, in my opinion, I still think that this was awesome, and it gave a big jump to WWE. If you think about how big 2011 was, with the rise of CM Punk and a whole bunch of other things. But just WrestleMania 28, Cena not beating Rock was a big letdown, and they didn't even really play this into the year of John Cena, where he would win the Money in the Bank, and then he would not be able to cash it in, and he would continuously lose pay-per-view matches, and it seemed like they were doing something where Cena had to get this win against Rock, and it had bugged him for a year. They had the rematch at WrestleMania 29, and they didn't use any of that. They just acted like, no big deal. One more big match. I know that we called it once in a lifetime, but we're going to do it again. And people turned on it. People don't really ever talk about WrestleMania 29, The Rock versus Cena. And however big the rivalry was, I think in a lot of people's mind, the rivalry ended at 28. It was a one-match thing. They had a rematch. No big deal. It was possibly The Rock's last match. We always like to think that he's coming back for one more, but we haven't seen it. He wasn't at 30. He didn't do anything at 31 other than have the big promo with Triple H, which a lot of people think is building up to 32. But we'll have to see. But Rock versus Cena, possibly one of the biggest things that's happened since I was a wrestling fan and came back to wrestling. But, like I said, this one already came out once in a lifetime. It's longer. I think it's better. It includes more footage. Check that out before you check out the rivalries. That's just it, in my opinion.